Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our introduction for US iEARN-USA, Engaging Your Students in Global Projects. My name is Connie Rinsink, and I am joined by my colleagues on the US iEARN-USA education team, who I'm going to introduce in just a minute. But we're excited to have you with us for about the next hour. Nicole, if you can go to next slide. Before we jump in, we wanted to share a few tips that we know help make this a smoother experience on Zoom. And so, as some of you are already doing, continue to chat in the chat box and making sure that that does say all panelists and attendees. And also, if you have questions throughout, please click on the Q&A to type those questions in as we go along, and we'll be sure that we address them before the end of the webinar. Thanks. And the next one. So we'd like to start with you, and if you would please take a minute to chat in the chat box, and we'd like you to tell us your name, where you're from, and what your professional role is in the education world. I see we have some North Carolina and Hawaii. There's one from Brooklyn. If you look at the bottom, you'll see a little icon that's got a bubble. We have someone coming in from Georgia, the country. Again, another North Carolina, Illinois. Some gen ed, primary dual language school, an art teacher in New York City. Thank you so much for your introductions. We really appreciate it. Great. Next slide. So the agenda this evening, oh, we got a hold on our slide. That one's taking a little long because of the photos. I can do the introduction without that slide. That's okay. My name is Connie Rinsink, and I coordinate outreach here at iEARN-USA. I'm also joined by Nicole, who you saw earlier. And if you want to pop on and say hello, Nicole, with your video. I don't know if you, yep, there she is.
Hi, everyone. Good to see you all and welcome.
She's our Manager of Member Services. And we have Jennifer Russell, our Director of Education. Jennifer saying hey. And Roshana Nabi, who is our Program Coordinator. And I don't know if she can turn her video on or not. If she can, I think she'll pop in just a minute. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about what we're going to discuss this afternoon for us and different times for others around the world. We are going to share a bit about iEARN and how it started and what it looks like today. Then we will discuss the benefits of having your students engage in iEARN Global Projects. We're going to give you a little bit of a deeper dive into iEARN projects, including the types of activities that students have done. And we'll tell you how you can get started. And then the last thing that we'll do today is we'll leave some time for discussion and to address your questions. So Nicole is going to tell you a little bit about our history.
Great, thank you so much, Connie. So yes, I'm excited to share with you about iEARN. I'm Nicole Weitzner, as Connie mentioned. I'm the Manager of Membership Services at iEARN-USA, and I've been a part of iEARN's global network for 6.5 years now. It's a really wonderful global community that we're sharing with you today. And in my role, I conduct outreach and help onboard and support our teacher members across the US. So the International Education and Resource Network, iEARN, is the world's largest K-12 educational network that enables schools, teachers, and students to connect online and collaborate on projects that tie classroom learning to real-world issues. iEARN was established in 1988 as a pilot project between 12 schools in New York and 12 schools in Moscow during the height of the Cold War. And in the first collaborative project, students worked in both English and Russian on curriculum-based projects that were designed by participating teachers. They used the technologies which were available at that time before the internet. So what they used was a large kind of bulky machine called the Lumaphone, which you see in that news clipping, to communicate with one another and build friendships. Our international network has grown exponentially since 1988, and our ability to connect online and collaborate as well. And this past school year, we connected almost 3,000 teachers and 74,000 students from 124 countries in global projects. iEARN-USA is the US Center for the International Network. Our iEARN partners around the world each organize national programs for teachers and students in their countries, but we all operate with the same vision and purpose of supporting young people to make a difference with their learning. And iEARN-USA provides various pathways for educators and students to connect and learn with their international peers. Our approach to global education includes online collaboration through iEARN projects, professional development and global networking opportunities, and sponsored exchange programs for educators and students to connect and learn with the world. So a little bit about iEARN projects. There are more than 100 projects in iEARN, and they're all designed and facilitated by teachers and students to fit their curriculum and classroom needs and schedules. We'll take an in-depth dive into some example projects later on in this webinar. iEARN projects are interdisciplinary and they connect learners across different age groups, primarily K-12, and different subject areas, including creative and language arts, social sciences, and STEM. And some projects happen in multiple languages. Here you can see some of the projects that have been aligned with the Common Core standards of science, art, and social studies. And each project also aligns with language arts and technology standards. In addition to connecting students' learning with local issues and meeting specific curriculum needs, every project proposed by teachers and students in iEARN has to answer the question, how will this project improve the quality of life on the planet? And this vision and purpose is really the glue that holds iEARN together, enabling participants to become global citizens who make a difference by collaborating with their peers around the world. In 2015, iEARN mobilized its global network to realize the world's 17 Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs, a set of targets relating to international development, and to ensure that each iEARN project aligned with at least one SDG. Therefore, through collective learning and action, youth are making a difference with iEARN projects that meet the global Sustainable Development Goals to end poverty, protect the planet, and ensure prosperity for all. So that's a bit about us. We'd love to learn a little more about you. So I'll pass it to Connie now to ask you this question. Oops, I think your mic is off, Connie.
Thank you very much. Got it. We wanted to take a moment here to recognize the difficult circumstances that educators across the world are facing. And so if you would take a minute in your chat, please, to answer our question here about how has the COVID-19 virus impacted you and your learning community. I'm seeing that in Moldova, there are no classes. All the schools are closed down. In Pennsylvania, all the schools are closed down. We are on spring break, and after the students left at the end, they're out until at least the end of March. Georgian schools are closing and a lot are going to be teaching online. New York City is teaching online. I'm coming to you from Texas today, and we're also teaching online starting next week. And so they extended spring break an additional week here. So thank you very much for sharing your personal experiences. Now more than ever, we feel that it's important to focus on shared purpose of improving the quality of life in our planet. And we at iEARN-USA are just really here to support you during that time. So if we can move to the next slide, thank you. In the next section, we're going to take a brief look at the impact of engaging students in iEARN global project work. Next slide. Thank you. And why do we think that global project work is important? Many students have limited opportunities to meaningful international exchange or to connect and learn with communities that are different from their own. And recent surveys on global competencies for US high school students show that while students think global communication and knowledge is important for their future, they don't feel adequately prepared in school. And outside of school, opportunities for international exchanges are also limited, and few US students get the chance to study abroad before college. However, we know that global competence skills are critical to student career readiness and to prepare youth for the complex challenges of globalization. We're seeing that today. iEARN believes that developing global competencies are vital in meeting the challenges of our increasingly interconnected world. Thank you. But what is global competency? So global competencies include the skill to help a student, or an adult for that matter, better understand local and global issues, recognizing different perspectives, communicating ideas effectively to different audiences, and acting on their ideas. So it's not just learning about issues, but what are the actions that we're taking? iEARN projects help students build these global competencies. Next, thank you. So iEARN global projects provide a lot of benefits for our student learning. As we mentioned before, iEARN projects increase global competencies. And in an evaluation of our projects last year, 82% of educators shared that most or all of students improved in teamwork and collaborative problem solving and openness and respect towards others. Students that participate in global projects also become part of an inclusive and culturally diverse community of youth and educators. And iEARN gives students exposure to people and ideas other than their own and their own community. Students work with a known audience of peers, which gives schoolwork a great sense of purpose and also an opportunity to share and apply knowledge with the world. Our iEARN educators also note an increase in student engagement when they participate in our projects. And finally, they develop the 21st century skills for technology, communication, critical thinking, and problem solving that we just mentioned earlier. Thanks. You can see here that the quote from one of our iEARN educators and how she felt like it really improved their writing, the descriptions there, and also their appreciation for those around the world. And I'm going to pass it off to you, Nicole.
Thank you, Connie. So yeah, I'm not gonna kind of shift a little to look at iEARN projects, iEARN global projects. And one of the most frequently asked questions we get from teachers is, how does it work? How can I get started with your global projects? So the way it works is, here's a visual that kind of lays it out for you step by step. First, you become a member, either as an individual teacher or as a whole school. And you can do step 2 and 3 interchangeably. You can either first join a project and look at how you might integrate it in your classroom, and then find one or more classroom partners to collaborate with on the project. Or you can find one or more classroom partners to collaborate with first, and then together join a project and look at how to best integrate it in your classroom. Once you've selected the project and found your classroom partner, our partners, you would implement the project activities in your classroom while simultaneously sharing and collaborating on their project work with other partner classrooms. And students connect in our safe and secure online forum spaces to meet one another and collaborate with their peers around the world who are working on the same project. You can easily create individual logins for each student, and then students can share their photos, essays, videos, and other products with their peers on the forums in our collaboration center. We encourage them to comment on at least 2 other posts for every post they make to really ensure that collaborative part of it. And this kind of shows you the different stages of an iEARN project and the different components. As we previously shared, iEARN has over 100 online collaborative projects that you can join based on your subject area, grade level, student interest, etc. And they are very diverse to meet the needs of different classrooms around the world. But every iEARN project really follows these 3 main components. So the first would be the classroom activities, which I just mentioned. These are activities that you would do with your students. Of course, at this time, many are not able to do it in the classroom. So it is definitely possible for many of our projects to be done individually by students at home. The beauty of online learning is that they can do their project work and then share about it in the online forum. And these are some examples of types of activities: creating media, doing research, discussing different issues. The second component would be the exchange activities online, where the students are posting in the online forum. They're responding to their peers in the forum as well. They're sharing their media and classroom activities. And the final and third piece of an iEARN project is where they take action and share their work as, again, to a larger audience. So they might, students might share their final product with their global partners in various ways. We actually hold 2 iEARN virtual project exhibitions a year, where iEARN classrooms are always invited to present their work to a global audience, but they might also present locally, display their work in school, or of course virtually with the rest of their school these days. So there are many ways, and the take action piece, you know, is where they would do something either locally or globally to really make a difference with what they've learned. So to give you a glimpse of what each of these components might look like in your classroom, we've pulled examples from 2 of our projects. One is Girl Rising and the other is Water is Life. And we will share the links to those projects in the chat box in a moment, so you can take a look at them if you'd like. And today we're really lucky to have the facilitators of the Girl Rising project join us to tell more. So I'd love to introduce Mari Sekine, and please correct me if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, from Japan, along with Ed Gregert from the US. So I will invite them to come on camera and share more now. Hi, Ed. Are you there? You're able to get on camera and turn on your microphone?
I think I'm on camera, and
Perfect.
I hope my microphone's working.
It looks like you are, so thank you. I don't believe Mari was able to join, so we'd love if you would like to share a bit now. Please, you have the floor.
Yeah. All right. Well, I hope perhaps that she'll join in the middle, because she was going to give her perspective as a classroom teacher, as I am not. And just a little bit about how this project came to be. The Girl Rising Project came about as a result of a collaboration between something called the Global Campaign for Education, which is an initiative to make sure that kids all over the world have access to a quality education, and iEARN. And so a number of years ago, 6, 7 years ago, we looked at how the issue of girls' education might be a project. And one of the members of that Global Campaign for Education was the organization Girl Rising in New York. And so we approached them and said, if we could make the movie available to classrooms around the world, and the issues that that movie raises in terms of access to a quality education, is that something we might do together? And they were very excited about that. And so the project works, as you can see, among a number of countries, and actually there are more countries involved in that. It's very international, and in each one of those countries there are, of course, multiple schools as well. And each one of those countries, as you can see, is in a different socioeconomic situation. And so the perspective that the students in those countries bring to the project is very different, varied, very diverse. And so those who are not familiar with the Girl Rising project and movie, it was a documentary that was put together by ABC Documentary in New York, focusing on 9 girls in 9 countries and the obstacles that those girls face in getting a quality education. And so do you want me to tell you when to change the slides, or do you want to do it, or what would you like?
Yes, please tell us when to change the slides.
Go ahead and change. And obviously, as you just saw in that prior slide, this project addresses 2 of these Sustainable Development Goals, one of access to a college, universal access to a college education, but also gender equality. But actually, iEARN adopted this project and put it together actually before the SDGs were even developed. And so just to let you know how it works, we make, through an agreement with the Girl Rising folks, we make available a DVD of the movie, either with a DVD, which we send to the teacher anywhere in the world, and with the collaboration with Girl Rising. And then we also have it available in a Dropbox. And so if somebody has a difficulty with postal mail, it can be actually downloaded as well. And the movie is quite well adapted to a classroom, because each one of the segments of the 9 girls in the 9 countries is about 20 minutes. And so it's possible for a teacher in a very multidisciplinary environment to focus on each of these individual segments and the issues raised in it. And so generally this project is for upper, middle, and senior high school. And what it does is it looks at those 9 countries. And the first thing that we advise teachers to do is to take a look at the video, watch it, and see how it fits into the curriculum that that teacher is involved in, whether it's an ESL, whether it's social studies, whether it's economics, whether it's math and statistics. It fits in many ways into various parts of the curriculum. And so the first thing they do is indeed, after the teacher watches it and sees how it fits, and the teacher identifies the various segments that fit into that teacher's classroom activities. And after watching it, the students then look online, after introducing themselves online, in the iEARN Collaboration Center, and read what other students around the world have written in terms of their response. We provide a series of questions as kind of just to start the ball rolling in terms of discussion in the classroom about each of the 9 segments, and to start the discussion about the issues involved, and how the girls overcame those obstacles, who in the society and their family and the community were supportive, and they then respond with their own observation. At the same time, they then research in their own countries what the situation is with education. In many countries, it's a universal right. It's actually built into the Constitution of most countries. And kids in the United States realize it's not in the US Constitution that there's a right to an education. And so people do research about the legal responsibilities of their country, of their government, to provide an education to all, both boys and girls, and at what ages. They look at statistics in terms of their own countries, but the documentary also provides statistics from around the world to see how their country fits in. And so they take the example of the 9 countries and then apply it to their own situation in their own country. They engage in that discussion both in the classroom, but they also then engage collaboratively, as I mentioned, with students all over the world in each of those 9 segment topics in the Collaboration Center. They look at where the similarities are, how did some girls overcome those obstacles, what was important, and what was the role, as I mentioned, of family and other organizations and school and groups to make sure that the girls got an education. And then some teachers say, well, hold it, this is not just about girls, because most of the obstacles to girls' education involve boys and men. And so it becomes a place where you look at how societies are structured. What are the cultural issues? What are the religious issues? What are the political issues? What are the economic issues involved in making sure that everyone gets access to a quality education? And then after all that discussion happens and people look at their own countries, they explore these nine countries, they provide that kind of feedback, and then they look at how else they might engage with each other. And so, as the slide there shows, a number of start video conferencing, real-time interaction, class to class, about what they've learned, what they've explored, what they've discovered within their own countries, as well as these other countries. And then as you suggested for all iEARN projects, there's an action component. And this takes many, many forms. It's obviously up to the classroom and the teacher and the students what kind of action they'll take. As you can see, some examples right there, awareness campaigns in the school. Madi was going to share some of the poster work. They've done amazing work getting the information and the awareness out into their community through posters that they share within the community. Some have been involved in some fundraising activities to make sure that kids in some countries have access to an education. They do the virtual exhibitions, as you mentioned earlier, and they'll actually do, as you can see there, some short films, videos that then can be shared globally. I hope that gives you a sense of how that project works and what the impact is. I should say it's transformational as young people discover. First of all, they said, my God, I didn't realize that kids didn't have access to an education. And the next one is, I complain about going to school every day, but I'm so lucky because I actually have an education. And so those kinds of transformational observations and realizations are a significant part of this project.
Thank you, Ed. The next one we're going to talk about is the Water is Life project. And so I wanted to share that the Water is Life project brings students together in active research and action-oriented collaboration as well. And this one around the vital essence of life, which is water. So taking the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals 6 and 14 as their inspiration and their focus, students work within their schools and with schools across the globe to study, research, and share as they develop an understanding of the goals, and then cooperatively develop ideas and strategies to play their part in the meeting of the goals. Last year, there were 22 schools in 10 countries that participated in Water is Life. Next one. In the Water is Life project, all classrooms follow the same steps. They research SDG 6 and 14. They identify these local issues related to water and how it's used in their communities. And I think that's certainly something that each individual student could do at home. Identifying a point where they could make a difference, and then looking at individual and collective action goals that could happen. And using our platform would be a great place for them to do that kind of collaboration. Some of the activities you can see here is they create, and they vary depending on what the class is determined. So for example, in Iran, they developed that water filtration system. In Uganda, they did water bores around their community. Back again, sorry. Thank you. And then in Australia, reporting on the distillation of water. Taiwan doing that cleanup of their beach. And US students researching different options as well. Thank you. Through this research process and action plan, students connected with their partner classrooms in the online forum space, and they worked on a collaborative wiki page where they exchanged videos using Flipgrid and held video conferences to discuss their project work. To share their research, next one, thanks. To share their research and projects and Water and Life, they did this following work. The middle school students presented at the United Nations. They made videos sharing their research and creating awareness. They created books and ebooks. And we also have an iEARN virtual exhibition twice a year where students are able to share their work. Thanks. Nicole, I think you're up next.
Thank you, Connie. As we mentioned earlier, there are over 100 projects ready for you to join today. And we're posting the link to the iEARN project book in the chat box now, as well as some iEARN project curriculum integration plans, so you can see which projects might be a good fit for you in your class. We wanted to share about a special opportunity to join Learning Circles. Learning Circles is a great way for beginners new to iEARN to engage in their first global project experience. And we're actually holding a special session of the Hello World Learning Circles, which will be starting at the end of March or beginning of April, to be determined, but we'll definitely be sharing more information soon. And it will run for 5 weeks. And as I mentioned, it's designed for beginners. It's a highly interactive and facilitated project experience among a small number of schools around the world, where participants identify and implement a classroom project related to a theme. Then they gain input and feedback from partner classrooms before developing a final product. So we'll definitely be sharing more details about the upcoming Learning Circles opportunity with you all, but of course, feel free to reach out if you're interested and ask any questions you have. We'll be sharing our contact information at the end of the webinar. We wanted to share another reflection from a longtime iEARN teacher in Florida who shared about how iEARN has impacted her and her students. iEARN has opened my students' eyes to a world full of unique cultures beyond Florida and Latin America, and has broken many of their cultural stereotypes and misconceptions, especially about the Arab world. The global relationships I've built with teachers in other countries have been life-changing and inspirational. And I will hand it back to Connie now.
Thanks. So we also have significant support for educators built into this process. If you can go to the next slide, thanks. In addition to providing you with access to our global network and our projects, we want to ensure that you have the skills necessary, the technical skills, the background knowledge, etc., to successfully engage in global collaborative projects with iEARN. And the next one. So for that reason, we have a long developed teacher's guide, and some of the key points that I wanted to bring out here for you to think about. There's one for you to think about how to develop a project plan. And so you would look at what the content is within your classroom and how our projects might align with that. There's a section on engaging in digital dialogue, and that's a great section to use with your students to help them understand what the etiquette is when you're meeting virtually online, both in chat rooms, but also if you're doing video dialogue. There are using technology tools, and there's some great tips there for you of how to utilize that and may be very, very useful right now in this environment. And finally, some evaluating and measuring results, because I know we're all thinking about how we might do some interim assessment of students throughout this time as well. So next one, we're really excited to announce that iEARN has decided for this time to do a free 60-day trial membership for our US members. And to do that, you'll go to us.iEARN.org. Nicole's going to tell you in a minute how to sign up. But if you'll enter in the notes of that code Wednesday webinar, then we'll know that you've attended this evening and we can get you started. That is enough time for you to do a project with your students and to get connected. And those learning circles will also fall within that 60 days. So Nicole, take that away.
Thank you. So how do you become a member? It's really easy and really quick. You just have to go online and complete this registration form. We'll be sharing the link with you now in the chat box to find that registration form. And once you submit it, I should mention that depending on where you are teaching and where you live, there are different iEARN centers, as we mentioned before. So we work to support teachers and schools in the US, and then there are partner centers around the world that support teachers and schools in those countries. So when you fill out your registration, you will be connected to the iEARN Center in your country, if there is one. If there isn't, you're of course still welcome to join and we'll receive your registration. Once you submit the registration, your iEARN country coordinator, that's us for the US, we approve your registration and help you get started. You get a welcome email with how to get started. And of course, we're always here if you need support or have any questions. So it really is just once you submit that registration within 1 business day, we approve your account. And I should also mention, usually there are nominal fees, minimal fees, just because it's a membership organization. But as Connie mentioned, we're offering you this free trial membership. So we definitely hope you'll take advantage. So we'd love to take some time now to respond to the questions you've sent us throughout the webinar and give you the opportunity to ask any other questions you may have. So please feel free to type any others in the chat box or in the Q&A right now, and we'll be happy to respond. I'll take a look now to see if there are any that we haven't yet addressed. Okay, I see someone's waiting for the sign up link, so we will get that posted in the chat box in just 1 second. Okay. Okay, and we'll also share a link where you can check if there is an iEARN center in your country if you are not in the US. So you can feel free to reach out anytime to us, but also if you do have an iEARN center to your iEARN center with questions. Okay, I'm seeing some questions come in. The first looks like it is from Kristen asking, are there projects that you would recommend for elementary students? We definitely have a lot of projects for elementary students. I mean, I'll mention 1 or 2, and then I'll pass it to my teammates if they'd like to add to that. One that is very popular, actually, this week is a big day for it, is called Talking Kites. And we can share the link to that in the chat box, where students, they create kites with messages and hopes and dreams that they have for the world on their kites, and they all fly them on the same day all around the world on the spring equinox. So that's actually it's actually tomorrow, March 19th. So we'll be sharing out on social media and in our newsletters and with our community some of those really inspirational photos and videos for everyone to see. And that's a great one to join. I know it's very soon, so there are definitely others though that you can join anytime coming up. So Jennifer or Connie, if you'd like to jump in and share any others.
Ed just suggested A Day in the Life. That's a great one where students can actually see about each other and learn about each other. There's also one that's the Teddy Bear Project. Thank you, Jennifer, that's super. The Teddy Bear Project is where they send teddy bears to each other. And I don't know that we'll do that right this minute in point in time, but it's a good one to get started with to see how that would roll. There's also Global Math that is elementary level. So we have multiples and several art projects as well that would be interactive, that would fit for you.
Okay, thank you. I'll look at the questions again here. Um, okay, I see one that asks, I understand classes do projects and get feedback from their peers. Are there any examples where they do projects together, such as collaborative video that they both make together using a collaborative video software? There is one called digital storytelling, and we can share the link to that in a moment. So they do create videos. That is like the primary focus of that project. And if anyone else would like to share more about that, please feel free to jump in, but that's a great one.
There's also another video where students take pictures of themselves and share their pictures with each other, and then they impose the pictures using Photoshop in their opposite communities. So that's another one that is more collaborative that way.
Yes.
Thanks, Jennifer, for sharing the digital storytelling project.
Yeah, the alternate reality project is also, yeah, the one you just mentioned, Connie, is a really neat one, where they see themselves, they can superimpose themselves or, you know, each other in their own, where they live or where they go to school, and see what that might look like. Okay. Any other questions any of you have at the moment?
Why don't we take it back to the one more question we had for the group?
Yes, that is a good idea. Oh, I do see one more here. Do you provide the tools for the virtual exchange component, or do we come up with that? So which video conferencing tools to use? We do have the capacity to share a Zoom room. Since it is for the whole global iEARN community, that we have like a request form. We would just ask members to submit if they would like to use it. So we can definitely share more about that we will be sending a follow-up email to everyone who's on this webinar, so we'll be sure to share about that as well. And I will turn it to the next question that we had for everyone. So we'd love to know if you could share in the chat how you think you could possibly use iEARN projects in your remote learning plans at this time. If there are any current members on this webinar, we'd love to hear how you might already be using our projects in your remote learning, or ideas you have for doing so. And yes, I do see Kristen mentioned that Zoom is opening their pro account for school right now, and that's right. Zoom is offering their services to teachers at this time. I see Nadia posted in here, my nonprofit has received a grant to implement a virtual exchange between students in San Antonio and students in Qatar in the Middle East. That would then be followed by an actual trip to Qatar, although the trip has been postponed. I'd like to look at implementing iEARN projects for the virtual exchange component. Fantastic, yes, quite a few teachers who have implemented iEARN projects in their classes have also combined it with a blended, with a physical exchange component, which I know at this time is a challenge, but perhaps hopefully in the near future that will be possible, and that really provides a rich experience to students.
Great, Nicole, if you'll move to the next slide for us. We want to, again, thank you for coming today. We're going to wrap up a little bit early, but we did want to make sure that you had our contact information. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. Nicole, Jennifer, I, and Roshana are here to support and help you, and we hope that you'll get logged on and get connected. Please feel free to share our information with other educators that you know are looking for these kind of plans. And we're going to look at running another one of these information sessions in about 10 days or so. We also are planning to do a series of webinars for people who do join as members. That is going to be a place just for educators, mainly to do some convening around how they're managing in this time, and also some professional development topics as well. So we hope you'll join us for that.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us, and we really look forward to connecting with all of you and hopefully welcoming all of you to the iEARN Global community. We will be stopping recording now, but we'll keep this room open for a few minutes for anyone who might like to stay and chat, and we're always happy to share project suggestions with any of you who might like some guidance or answer any questions. So thank you so much again. Take good care, everyone.
Be well.